Okay, the speaker is not on. Should be okay. So, all right, we are going to, yeah, we did the GCC tutorial, right? Okay, so we're going to do Visual Studio. The reason is for our assignment 2. You are going to use both GCC and Visual Studio. We want to compare and contrast the compiler impact. So, as I said, you must do the assignment, use the 2 platform as specified in the assignment. Okay, so let's get started to look at the Visual Studio. Yeah, in case you don't have Visual Studio, you can just directly go to the link. You will download the Visual Studio for free. Okay, you can do either Visual Studio 2019. Okay, there is a free. Yes, you need the community version, which is free. If you download professional, they're going to ask you to pay. So yeah, if you want to pay, there's no problem. You can use the professional one, but the community is one is sufficient. So you can download. So if you already have Visual Studio 2009, you really just go ahead to use it. You don't need to re-download. However, if you never use Visual Studio, I just suggest you download the latest one, Visual Studio 2022. There is a very little difference. Okay, my tutorial applied to both 2019 and 2022. Okay, so once you download, right? Yeah, you may still be asked to activate your system, even the community edition, no problem. You just go to login. Okay, you go to login. You type your official ASU RIDE ID. Okay, so through the ASU RIDE ID institutional login, they will activate your system. So you just need to do once. Okay, so that is Visual Studio, and so you say, okay, I'm Mac user, right? Yeah, Mac user, you perform the boot camp or install the per desktop on your with Windows 10 or 11, whichever. Okay, so yes, I always get a question, can I use Xcode? Okay, not for this assignment. Okay, so because this assignment we want specifically compare Visual Studio and the GCC. If you use the other one, you make it a different behavior. You say something different, you submit something different. The grader, basically, that's the key. The graders are going to use GCC and the Visual Studio to grade your assignment. Does that make sense? I cannot just say you can use anyone and ask the grader to install. What about if the grader don't have the Mac Xcode? Right? So you can see. But you say, okay, what I'm going to do if I don't have space to install a boot camp for Windows, then no problem. We have a computer lab, right? So you just go to Brickyard Engineering. That is our main lab, right? Actually, you first go through the 211. That's a suite. Inside suite, you go in, it's 214. So we have all kinds of computers. We have hundreds of PC, we have hundreds of Mac. Okay. So you have all the computers. Yes, you see, okay, wait, I can install Visual Studio on my Mac. Yes, that's true. But that Visual Studio does not have C++. Okay, yeah, not all the components are available on Mac Visual Studio. You don't have C++. So therefore, you do need to use a PC. But as I say, you can go to you need to make sure you will be able to open the lab door. So with your SIM card. Then once you have the access, you have 24/7 access. So yes, homework 2, you're going to use Visual Studio and the GCC to do the assignment from homework 3. Okay. Then I'm not going to force you to use both. You can choose one of them. GCC or Visual Studio. Okay. So you say, can I use Xcode? Yeah, you can use Xcode, but you make sure you test on Visual Studio or GCC before you submit, because the grader will only use either GCC or Visual Studio. Yes. Yes, only from these two, right? But as I said, you can use any one. Typically, we're not going to do those side effects. Typically, they are largely the same. But as I said, you need to understand the graders of only use GCC or Visual Studio. So if you use whatever platform, the grader may not have it, right? You can imagine the grader also have limited resource. Okay, so but just by the way, CSE 310 will use GCC only. Okay, I know GCC is not so convenient, but GCC is very important for computer science students. So 3 things are going to reinforce you. As I said, I at least did 2 GCC, right? You cannot say I never use a GCC, right? Yes, you use 2 assignment, later one. I don't want to put too much stress on, because GCC is a more professional tool for computer science. Right now, you probably are not at that level. You want to use a more convenient tool. But when you get to 310, you have to be more professional, right? So you are juniors, and so because 310 also prepare for our operating system course, okay, which is 330, which are you're going to design a Unix-like operating system. Okay, you're going to design a shell like GCC. Okay, so therefore those are all connected. Yes. Yes, there is one. Yes, there is one. If you use Visual Studio, you don't necessarily need that one, because Visual Studio has a Linux version into it. But the key is I want you use GCC, or 310 want you use GCC to reinforce you are able to use the GCC Unix operating system, because you're going to design a Unix operating system like operating system. They're not going to ask you to design Windows, right? It's going to be much more difficult. Okay, so yeah, so that's why I make clear what you are expected. As I said, I would like you use GCC. Everyone, yes, you know how to connect to GCC, use any computer, Mac or PC, Linux. You are using university server. Everyone will be using exactly the same thing. So other programming environment, as I said, you can use any other programming environment, but the TA grader will only use one of the environment. Okay, for homework 2, you need to use both. The grader are going to use both. So now, how do we get started? I assume you haven't used it. Then we use Visual Studio. Either 19 or 22, you create a new project. If you don't see it, you just search this C++. Okay, so if they don't show you this C++ project, which means you don't have it, you actually need to, yeah, you need to do the, you need to run your installer. How do you run installer? You go to your Windows search bar, you enter installer, they will find Visual Studio installer. You click on installer, so they will allow you to add C++ into your Visual Studio. Okay, so yes, once you added one, you will see the C++ project. I want you to choose the empty one. Okay, I want you to choose the empty one. If you choose the other one, they are going to copy a lot of files into your project, make it very big, and you could get some inconsistent issues. Just choose the empty one. Okay, then you choose your project. Let's say you are doing homework 2, you can just choose HW2 as your project name, and then for the solution, you always need to change. Okay, click. So they have a default location. Never use the default location. Okay, click the 3 dots and change to your CSE 240 folder. I assume you are going to have your folder for this class. change in there, and when you submit, you know where your file is. So if you go to the default location, you may not even find your file. Okay, so this is how you do the installation. You find installer. Now you will be add components. Okay, now you can see there are multiple C++. I want you add the desktop development with C++. You need to add this one. You don't need to add game development. We don't develop game, but if you want to develop the game, you add, that is your select choice. There is no problem with me. Here, very important, you don't add the Linux C++. If you add the Linux C++, you're going to get the same result, or most likely you get the same result as the GCC on general server, because that is also a Linux. Okay, as a result, you cannot see the difference between Visual Studio and the GCC. Okay, I want you to add the normal C++. Is that clear? Okay, I get the problem, they add this one, then they say, I never see any difference. Yeah, because you are using the same C++. Okay, yeah. So now let's just give you a little bit crash course when you create. So you will show a solution explorer. You will see two-level solution and the project. Basically, solution is a bigger framework. You could develop multiple projects inside one solution. But in this course, we will only have one project in each solution. So therefore, you don't see much difference. But later, if you take my 445, I'm going to have multiple projects because we're doing distributed software development. We're going to have multiple distributed projects put inside one solution. So Visual Studio has that capacity, but you still need to understand the solution and the project, right? So the project inside you will have, yes, they will create a header file, a dependency, and a resource file and the source file. Later, when we do C++, we're going to use the header files, okay? You're going to create the header file. But before C++, we are going to be just using the source file folder. So, okay, what you need to do is you right-click your source file, you add a new file, okay? So you right-click the source file folder, you choose add, and then you choose add a new item, right? You choose an add new item. So then, yeah, you choose a new add new item. So then the framework will allow you to add either C++ file or the header file, .cpp and .h. Unfortunately, there is no .c, okay? Right now, we're writing C file. C and C++ are different, okay? You cannot create CPP. And I know I'm going to get a lot of students create the CPP file. They get all different answers, okay? Yeah, they actually compile, but they give you different answers because it's a different compiler, okay? It's not the same compiler. You have a C compiler, you have a CPP compiler, okay? So how do I get the, how do you get the C? All you need to do is you just delete the PP, right? Does that make sense? Can you do it? They just give you the CPP. It does not mean you have to choose the CPP. You just delete the ++, then become C. Does that make sense? Everyone understand this? Don't ask any question, right? In the discussion board, how can I do C? I only get the C++. Tomorrow you are going to see people ask the question. We guarantee the students will not come into the class. I will answer, please attend the class, okay? Or, yes, that's why I need to put the video. They cannot attend the class anymore because they are going to ask me the question. I say, okay, read the video, right? If you answer, you're welcome to answer. Please read the video, right? Okay, good, watch the video. So that's all you need to do. You just make sure you manually change CPP. So yeah, you will get a few other issues with Visual Studio is modern programming environment. They already consider everything like is super high security. Okay, you know C++ was developed in 70s. C is developed in 70s, C++ is in 80s. Hey, many years back, right? So what's the problem? There are security loophole in their library functions. People are taking advantage of the C++ library, particularly C library, to make some security attack. So therefore, Visual Studio have rewritten the basic scanf, printf, all those string operation. So basically, they add _s. So this new library, they address the security issue. Okay. So yeah, we could ask you to use the one you use in the same way. Okay, just the implementation is different. However, because we also use GCC, GCC does not have those security library. So to be consistent, we want you still use the one scanf, printf, and the string copy, right? Without the S. So then you are going to get a security warning. You always get a security warning. Your program is not secure, right? So you could basically get rid of the warning by convert to ANSI C. Okay, the ANSI C is the standard of C without the security option. So how do you do it? You can follow those 4 steps. Okay, you go to the Solution Explorer, you right-click the folder, select property, then you go to select the preprocessor here, right? Select the preprocessor, then you add here, there is a string. Okay, you add this part into the existing string. Then they will turn off the warning. So obviously, you don't have to do it if you just get those warnings. But as I recommend you do it. So also there is a lot of issues. I always get a question. My Visual Studio always shut down the window. I mean the console, the black window which displays output. I couldn't even see it. They shut down, the finish. I don't know what I'm going to do, right? So there are easy way and there is a proper way to do it. Okay, I'm going to show you. So this is the proper way to do is you can reconfigure. Basically, this is a configurable feature. You can keep it open or you shut it down. So here you can go to the project property. You go to configuration property linker system, and then you basically need to select your console, and so then after you make this selection, they will stay open. Okay, so you do it once for all. Or you say, I couldn't figure out how to do it. It's too much for me to follow those steps. Then what you could do is you can get the get char at the end, right? At your last line of the code, then your program will start to wait until you type any key to close the window. Okay, so that is you keep your console window open. So debugging. Visual Studio is very powerful, is extremely convenient for debugging. You recall we do GCC, right? You need to create a debugger object separately. You need to run the debugger. You need to type breakpoint at line 7. You have to count where is line 7, and so on. It's very inconvenient. Here you will see actually the window. You just click on the sidebar, you get the breakpoint. Okay. So then they will stop here. You can set up multiple breakpoints. So then when you start your program with debugging, if you are debugging your program, you have two options on the Visual Studio menu here. On the menu, there is a debug. You can say start without debugging or start with debugging. So yeah, when you debug, you start with the debugging. You need to combine with the breakpoint. So because you don't want to debug your entire program. You know this part is what I suspect is going to have the issue. So you can say the arrow will stop here. Then they have three buttons on the top: step in, step over, and step out. So what's the difference? Step in means if this line of code is a function or procedure or method. Step in means they are going to go into to debug. So typically, if this is your function, your method you want to debug, you use step in, right? But if this is scanf, if it's a printf, that's a library function. You don't want to debug the library function. Then you just use step over. Then they will just consider this printf as one line. They just go to next line, right? So that's more convenient. But if you accidentally get into the printf, you say, I don't know this code. You keep doing single step. There are 1,000 lines of code you cannot do. Then you use step out, right? Step out will jump out of the procedure and go back to the next level. Does that make sense? Okay, you can see very convenient. So that is not the you can do single stepping. You can see the variable. You can see when you get to this line, all the variable that is visible here will be showing here. You will see the value. Okay. I has no value at this time. K is 0, tail is 1. Okay. So that is the key. You do debugging. You need to watch the variable value change. You will check whether it's changed the way you want it to change. I also am going to show you. You could do desktop checking. You draw all the memory. I'm going to do a lot of desktop checking. You basically draw your memory map, right? So you will know what memory you have, where is I, where is J. You have your memory map, all the variable, and then you also use single step execution. You will write those variables in. That is how you do debugging. Okay. Don't ask me, hey, this is my code. Look at where the problem is. There is no way I will be easily say where the problem is, right? So I would also do the single step execution to do debugging. So if you just do the debugging, you will say immediately what the problem is, because you know your code. You know what your code is supposed to do, right? So with this debugging tool, it's really very easy to get any of your program done, okay? So Visual Studio, okay, also have a very powerful feature. They have memory leak detection. So, and which you could just use the tool to detect whether you have memory leak, okay? So right now, we haven't get to the dynamic memory part. For the first few assignments, you will not have the issue, but later you will have the memory leak. Okay, so if you use Visual Studio could automatically detect the memory leak, and while GCC doesn't. Again, GCC is a more basic tools. It doesn't have, but what we are going to actually cover, how do you detect memory check? Okay, you're going to learn basically how to make sure you don't have memory leak in the first place. You don't need to detect it, right? Just like if you buy a very solid bucket you use to store water, you don't need to detect the memory leak. You know that's solid, right? Yes. So if you don't know how to build your bucket. You say, I'm going to do it, use pieces of wood. I'm going to use glue to make a bucket. If you are not good enough, you have water leak, right? So you're going to fix it. So then you need to detect it. But as I said, for this class, we want to make sure you never get the memory leak, okay, in the first place. And that is what we're going to teach you. And yes, also not all the environment have the memory leak. You are going to be responsible to write the memory leak. What's the memory leak? You waste the memory is not memory leak, right? So if you have a bucket of water, you happen to spill out some water, that's not a water leak. The leak is there are small holes. You don't normally see it. They get drop. You store the water there for a week. You suddenly say all the water is gone, right? That's memories like this. You have unintentionally small piece of memory going wasted continuously. That is called memory leak. You suddenly waste some memory. That is not memory leak. You declare a memory you never use. That is not memory leak. All right. So we're going to stop here. And as I said, we're going to really start to go into C programming and C++ programming in the next module. Thank you. Any questions?